Hello and welcome to the H&M Show. My name is Michael.
I love how you're over there reading that off of your cue card.
Well, I have to.
And my name is Heather. I did not have to read it off
Oh,
the
wow. I
cue card, by the way.
got a gong
A
there.
gong. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of that show.
The
What was
Gong
that
Show.
show that had
The Gong
the
Show.
Gong Show? Yeah, that's appropriately named.
There you go.
So my name is Heather. Oh, you're supposed to put the gong right over that again.
That's right. That's right. There you go.
So every week, Michael,
Mm-hmm.
we ask this burning need-to-know question, and I've got to know from you, Michael.
All right. Okay.
What does H&M stand for?
Well, this week, H stands for H lookup, and M stands for mid.
Okay, I'm looking up. Am I going to see something special?
You are actually. This week,
All right.
we are talking. Okay, here's what we're talking. We are talking Google spreadsheets. And today, and you can see right here, here's the spreadsheet. Here's Ted's page. Ted Juch, Truck. I'm going to get it wrong, whatever. Juch. There it is. I told you I would. I told you I'd mess it up.
Whatever.
I told you I would. This is his Google Plus page that you're looking at right now. And here he is. Say hello to everyone, Ted.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Michael and Heather.
Oh, you are more than welcome. I gotta ask you
We're
though.
glad
Go ahead.
you're here.
Yep, absolutely. But I gotta ask you, and you need to tell everybody because I was fortunate enough to meet you at the last summit and all that kind of stuff. So it was really a blast. Please tell everyone all the stuff that you're a TC in, a top contributor. When I say TC, folks, I mean top contributor, and or a rising star or any of that kind of stuff. Tell everybody a little bit about what you do with the Google end of it.
Yeah, so I started with Google Docs about 8 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And as the program developed, I kind of got involved in a few other things. So my two main products are Google Docs, but within Docs, mostly spreadsheets and forms. But we still call it Google Docs TCs. Everything else kind of falls under that.
Right.
That's a whole other show.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And then I'm also involved with Project Fi, so Google's phone service, which is really interesting and innovative. And I think you might have had another TC at some point talk about it, but I think it's really great.
Yeah, I did. I actually had Ziggy on. I had Ziggy showing, so that was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's so funny.
And...
Hey, I got to tell you, he was so over our head. I was just going, he was saying stuff. I was like, okay, I really don't get it, but
yeah, that's the level it gets to. Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, also involved a little bit with Android Auto at the beginning, Allo. Cool. But now it's more of Docs and Fi for the most part.
Fantastic. That's awesome. That's so cool. And I'm really glad you took time out to come talk to us too, because I know we had you on one time before. And during this event, I think if anybody's watching the replay, I do have a card up there that shows the last event when you were on, so they can kind of see that too. So I try and do that on purpose just to make that happen. But yeah, this is fantastic. Glad you're here. We're ready to go if you're ready to go. You ready to kick into it?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I will let you screen share with everybody.
Sure.
All right. And I will switch to that when I see it come up. And folks, anybody that's out there, leave comments during the show. I already talked to Ted. He's open to it. Ask as you go, especially if it's pertinent right now. I know Heather's really good about that. Oh, Ted, stop for a second. We have something, or something like that. So, all right, I'm screen sharing. There you go. So there we go.
All right. So the timing of this is perfect. March Madness is just around the corner, so not sure how people are familiar with March Madness, but March Madness here in the US is the college basketball championships, basically. And a lot of people get into it. The games are really exciting. And one of the big things that people do with this is they create brackets and pick the teams they think are going to win. People will put money in a pool or different prizes and things, and at the end of the tournament, whoever made the most correct picks wins the pool. And so I thought this was a perfect opportunity to talk about a really interesting implementation, if you will, of doing this whole process just using Google Sheets, and talk a little bit about why Google Sheets is a really great place to do this. Why you can't really do it with Excel. And now I'm a spreadsheets person, but I like Google Sheets. I use Excel a lot too, but the purpose of this is to show kind of the power of Google Sheets. So there's right now I'm screen sharing just a post from the Google Docs help forum where all of this information is, and you can easily find it from either my Google Plus page, which I'm going to show you now. I have a Google Sheets collection, so if you want to follow the collection anytime I post something, there'll be an update there. But there's a posting out there that shows all that information, which will take you to the help forum. And then I also have a Twitter, TED on Docs and Phi, where I posted all this out there too. So after this, if you're interested in using these or tinkering around with it, that's where you can find them. And also, if you have any questions during any of this or even afterwards, maybe you find a bug or anything, I try to keep these things up to date and fix it as quickly as possible. So feel free to respond anywhere to my Twitter, to Google Plus, or even the Docs forum.
So Ted, just to clarify, just real quick, so what you're saying is they can actually, if they want to do their own March Madness, they have a way to get this spreadsheet and create their own and do their own. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, and it's as easy as clicking on this link, and
that's fantastic.
How about I just click on the link, shows you what happens, and it takes you out to hey, do you want to make a copy of it? So you're not actually taking my template. You just make a copy of it, and now you have your own version of it. It's private to you. Nobody else can see it, and you can play around with it.
That is so generous. Thank you. That's awesome, though. That's so cool, especially for people that want to do this, because I know there's a lot of people that do this stuff, so that's really cool.
Yeah. So just a little fun fact around how this actually works. So whenever you're using anything in Google Docs and you create a template and you want other people to use it, people typically, you might just post a link out to it, make it shareable for anybody to find, and then you just lock it down so it's view only and force people to make their own copy of it. People who maybe aren't familiar with Google Sheets as much and the security around things and how templates work, there's a fun workaround where if you just take your spreadsheet and you put /copy after it and you give that link to somebody, it's going to automatically send you to that copy page. And so people will never actually touch your original template. They'll have their own copy immediately. So this is how the template gallery works.
Wow.
That's a bonus. That's a bonus right there.
I know, I was gonna say,
that's
that
a bonus.
wasn't even on the agenda to learn today.
That's a bonus. /copy. So
/copy.
That's awesome. So is that like the sharing link? Does it have sharing that equals sharing at the end as well, or is it just the link?
So it's just the link.
Okay, good. Okay, that's what I wanted to. Okay.
Here, I'll highlight this portion.
Okay, I probably won't be able to see that, but that's okay. That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah, so when you go to a normal Google Doc, at the end of the URL, it says /edit usually, and that's your version of it. But if you ever just put /copy after it and try to go to that link,
awesome,
it's going to make a copy of your sheet automatically, or your doc, or your slides presentation, anything like that.
And just anybody that is interested in this and wants to do this or know that simple trick, I'm going to add that to the description. I got to make a note right now. I'm going to add that to the description, so it will be down there at this timestamp. I'll make sure that this timestamp has that on there. Go ahead, Ted. Keep going.
All right. So I'm going to close that one. So I think I'll go into a little bit of the functionality, just high level, how this works, what it provides, and kind of go from there. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, so
perfect.
Looking forward to it.
Perfect.
So there's two templates. There is the actual template for managing your bracket, and then there is a template for running a pool. So those are kind of the two main things that you'll see on the social media posts, and you'll want to start with the single bracket unless you have your own pool that you're already running. But so I'm going to show that here. So with each bracket and each template, there's instructions of how to use it. Kind of your help has all the information that you need to do it. And then a help tab, which you have some questions. There's a little bit more information within the help tab, kind of to describe how all of this works. But the main thing with this is there's a your bracket tab and there's a full bracket tab. So the full bracket tab is something you never ever want to touch. And ooh, what was that?
That's all right. It was Heather. She bounced out for a second. No worries. Oh. Go ahead.
Thought somebody shut the door.
It's all right.
So the full bracket tab is the really cool part of this, that as the tournament progresses and people win games and things, I am keeping that data up to date in a different spreadsheet, and it's going to automatically flow to anybody's spreadsheets or anybody's templates that are using this.
Oh, that's so cool.
And,
so you're entering
yeah.
the data that will go into their sheet, basically, is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yep. And so this is one of the cool powers,
That's
I think, of Google
awesome.
Sheets, where you can link sheets back and forth really easily. And so I have this public posted database, if you will, of all this data that I keep up to date real time with some help from other community members.
Awesome.
And it's automatically connected to these spreadsheets. And so it's only pulling data from kind of where I'm keeping track of it down into your spreadsheet. And so we try to keep it up to date as soon as the game is over, so that your score is up to date and you can see where you are in your pool and how many points you've earned and things like that. So nothing you have to do to get that to work. It's just part of how
That's awesome.
the template is set up.
That's awesome. That's so great.
Yeah. So let me show that. So right now there's a bunch of test data in there just to make sure everything works.
Sure.
Okay. So you may see test or whatever, but once the tournament teams are actually populated, so they call that Selection Sunday. It's coming this Sunday. I'll update all of that information, and it'll automatically flow out to the full bracket, and then it'll also automatically flow out to the Your Bracket tab. So the Your Bracket tab is where you're actually making your picks. So if you think of, maybe you used to be writing this down, you'd have a blank piece of paper in front of you. You see the teams that could be possibly win the game.
Mm-hmm.
You write the name of the team in, and you just keep going until you've picked the whole entire tournament.
Okay.
So basically, this is reproduced here, where all these yellow fields tell you, okay, in this first game, we have test team 1 and test team 2. And I think test team, you click on this, it gives you the 2 choices of the teams you can pick. I'm going to pick test 1, and we'll say for this game, I'm just going to pick test 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool part about this is it's all data validated. So you can't pick things that aren't possible to happen. So when we come over here, it's smart enough to know that you pick test 1 and test 3 and only give you as those choices as you go forward. So
Very
as you're
cool.
filling this out, just think, start at the ends and work towards the middle, so that it makes sense. Unless you have a favorite team that you want to pick as the winner no matter what.
You can take them all the way, right? Exactly.
Yeah. But within here, it's not going to show up for you to pick, because it's only going to show up. Like if I click down here and try to pick a team, well, there's nothing to pick from because I haven't picked the teams from the previous round of the game.
That's really cool. So let me ask you something real quick. This is just a personal question, because I do brackets, every year, just like everybody else. My kids make me. No, but can you change something that you've already entered? You know what I'm saying? If the game's already over, do you have something that automatically closes that, so whatever your pick was, it stays there? So
no, not in the single bracket.
Okay.
You can change this throughout the whole thing anytime that you want.
Okay, I got you.
So I'll get to the pool part of this later.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to.
I think I should explain it now though too, with how the pool works. So with the pool, there's no direct connection to your actual sheet. So if you change something in your sheet, it's not going to change in the pool bracket. So it's up to the bracket manager to say, all right, your picks are solid, no more changing it, and they'll probably block you out of actually changing it.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So, but for this purpose, it makes it easy for you to just, tinker around and see, if I would have picked here, what would have happened?
Okay, another quick question then. So you would change that person to view only as opposed to edit, is that right?
So there's different ways that the bracket manager can do it.
Okay.
So the primary way that I suggest is that there is a call it a values only version of your picks that you will share with your bracket manager. And your bracket manager will either copy that information into a tab, or they'll just copy the tab itself into the bracket.
Okay.
And then they can just say, hey, anybody who wants to see the pool, they would probably share their bracket as view only with anybody with the link. But otherwise, I would not advise giving your bracket participants access to edit the bracket.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, sounds good. And I'm probably way over people's head or whatever. I don't want to blow you guys out of the water. We more want to show you these options and things you can do with a spreadsheet more than get too technical with the bracket, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think your questions are really good though, because one of the big things people always ask about and are really concerned about, especially on the web, is security, just around things in general. So I know we're using a very detailed scenario here of how security works, but the important part with Google Docs is security is really up to the owner of the files. They can share it with whoever they want. I think Google's very clear about when they're sharing it, what they're sharing, and how much they're sharing, and what people
exactly.
can actually do to your files. So in this bracket world, you have your bracket. You wouldn't, if you think of the paper version of it, you're not going to let people go in and change their things after their picks after the game started. So there's a way that that's enforced through this by the security built into Google Docs.
Good point. Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing you're probably seeing here, the greens and the yellows, all the Christmas colors. So right now, since there's test data everywhere in the database, it looks like the tournament's over. And so when all that's gone, you're not going to see any of this until the game gets completed. So when the game's completed, if you picked one, it's going to say, yes, go green, good job, you picked it right. Otherwise, it's going to show red, sorry, you didn't pick the correct answer. So just kind of a visual indication, if you're looking at the bracket, how green or how red is my bracket, to show how good or bad that I'm doing. So I think the next question
I think Andrew said this will enable me to lose a lot of money, right? It could.
Yeah. So I think kind of the next natural thing people ask about, well, scoring. I mean, if there's part of it is just keeping track of your bracket on your own. But scoring wise, if I wanted to have a scoring methodology, and when I was doing some research, so I've been doing this for, I think it's 2012. And so there's all these interesting articles out there about all the different scoring methodologies that people use for brackets and why you would want to pick one over the other and try to go pick pools that have a certain methodology or whatever. And so I built this so you can use any scoring methodology that you want. And that's all enforced through this bracket configuration. So typically the way the scoring works is the first round, which is the easiest to pick, has less points. And as you move throughout the tournament, it gets more hard to pick the correct team. And so you get more points. I preloaded this with just the very basic, what most brackets use, of the first round, 1 point, third round, okay, let me explain this real quick too. So on brackets, there is like the first round is considered in this tournament, what are the first round games that happen? And so in the men's tournament, they expanded the tournament to, I think, 68 teams. And so there's two, they call them play-in games at the very beginning. I don't have the play-in games or anything in these templates right now. So it's called the second round because the second round is the round of 64 when the tournament officially gets going with the main bracket, but it just does not include the play-in games. So the women's tournament doesn't have that. And so this also supports the women's tournament. I keep the women's tournament up to date as well. But if you click women, it's going to change everywhere so that it actually shows first round, second round, and that propagates through the whole bracket. So you see second round, you're like, where's the first round in the men's? Because there's playing games, and I don't have those on here yet. And most brackets really don't include them.
Gotcha.
So here, this is where you would put your points in. This is going to reflect out here on the your bracket. Here, and then as things happen, the points will calculate and kind of tell you what your overall score is as it goes. So I picked those two games so far to show here, and so I got 1 point for picking that first game.
Very complex.
Yes, there's lots of hidden tabs and things going on in the background that makes this work. And
what's nice is what I like is that it's just really showing you what you can do with the results of the formulas and things and all these different things and how it affects other sheets. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I know there's people out there always asking how does this work and things. So it's all very transparent. If you want to click around and you'll find, fields with formulas in them and, how does this work type of thing. Feel free to post on anywhere and I'll definitely explain it. I've had some help build this throughout the years. So if there's something I don't know for some reason, we'll definitely get an answer out there. But I've gotten comments from people in the past who have used this, that this has been their entry into Google Sheets, and they just keep this template when they're working on Google Sheets to say, okay, how did Ted do that? Oh, here's how I do it in my sheet using this, which is crazy. But hey, anyway, people are going to use this. I say go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if it's something you like. So that's the single bracket. I think I'll stop there and see if you guys have any questions or.
No, nothing yet. I think everybody's just. We'll go out there. Just let me go out to the commenting real quick, just to see everybody that's out there, just to recognize some people that showed up. We have. Let's see. Let me start at the beginning. Andrew and Miss Sheila's out there. We got Ross coming in from Australia. That's kind of cool. Just to learn a little bit, Scott Scowcroft made a point to come on in, and Bill Graham's here from Belize. So we're around the world. We're coming around here. So. Zara is here. I see Zara out there. So we got a couple people, and then Mark Barris and Arthur Moorhead. So we got some people in here. Nobody asking any big questions or anything at this moment, but
cool.
Yeah. So rock and roll.
All right, so I'll get into the bracket part of this, or the pool part of this, which is I think the coolest part, really, of something you can do really easily with Google Sheets, and how sharing of files and connected spreadsheets and all of this works together, that kind of allows this to work. So I'm going to switch over here to the group tab. So visually, everything is going to kind of look the same, just to try to keep it consistent. You'll have a full bracket kind of tab that comes preloaded, and the two main differences are within the bracket configuration. So here, you can kind of pick all the things you want for your bracket. Talk about bonus points in a second. Pick your scoring methodology, and then you just enroll the people. It's as simple as literally typing their name in. It will assign a bracket number, and when you get the data from the people that are in your pool, all you do is you rename the bracket. So all these instructions are in the spreadsheet, but you just rename the bracket based on how the bracket was assigned. So it would say, like, if I type in my name, it's going to assign it to bracket 1. You just have to make sure that bracket is called bracket 1. And if you don't do it, it's going to yell at you on the points standings anyway to tell you how to fix it. So that's really as simple as it is enrolling. And as you enroll people, over here on the points tab, it'll automatically pull people through and start scoring everything. So the way to get the data from the single tab or single template into the group tab is, there's instructions on how to do this too, but there's a hidden tab on here called bracket data for pool. And if you click on that, it'll open up. It has a very simple version of what you've picked. And this is the information that you want to share with your bracket manager. So there's instructions, there's different ways to do this. But really, I think the easiest way, and the way that I describe, is to share your spreadsheet with your bracket manager, and have your bracket manager just make a copy of that tab and just put it into their into the pool tab, or the pool spreadsheet. So I can show you almost how easy that is just between these two. Once you have it shared, you just literally click on copy to here. It's going to pull up all of your stuff, which we can do recent. It's easy here. So here's the bracket. You just click on that and say, oh, great, it did that. You go back over here. And so you see there's a new tab here, copy of bracket data for pool.
Okay.
And so there it is. So right now it's going to show errors on here just because
there's not any data.
There's formulas in that other spreadsheet, but the instructions are there that you just make a copy of that tab, you save it as values only, and then share it so that it's exactly what you put in your choices, goes over to the bracket manager. All they do is rename this to however you enrolled it, and everything will start appearing on on the points. Yeah.
That is so, man, that's something. There's a lot of stuff in that. Andrew says, I scream at sheets, so I guess they are entitled to yell back.
There you go. Yeah. So let me just show this real quick. I have a bracket that I started for H&M just to go through this. But so this is kind of my bracket here. I'm going to try to quickly, I already filled out the right side, so I'm just going to quickly fill out some of this here. And so just notice I'm starting to the left and going to the right. And so here, like as I picked these, once again, this is called data validation. And data validation is a really good thing because in general, people provide data very poorly when you ask them for it, especially if you have a form or something. And so you'll want to use what's called data validation to basically limit how the information that you need from somebody is provided. So it may be limited to a few choices. You think of like a multiple choice test, or a specific format. So you think of phone numbers or dates and things. And when you do data validation, it just makes your data much more clean.
And that's the drop downs. The drop downs are data validation items. You only have two choices in this particular thing. So he set up the data validation to only be these two choices. So they can't type in test in small letters and spell out 24. You can't do any of that kind of stuff. You can only put those items that are in there.
Yep. So like here, if I try to type something,
right.
Oh, sorry. Can't do it. Please enter a value from the drop down.
Right, so exactly.
Do that there. So there's two types of validation, I guess. There's the validation on the actual cell where there's not going to be a drop down or things to pick from. So it could be a format, it could be anything. But then typically the best way to visually show, hey, there's validation in the cell is to pull a drop down from it. And so you can do two things. You can either accept invalid content. So I could just type my name in there and it's going to accept it and that's okay. Or you can say, no, you can only pick from the choices that I tell people to. So it's kind of like a free text field in a way, if you think of forms, to accept an answer, or you pick from something I've asked you to pick from.
Yeah, so basically you're making all your choices for this side of the bracket. That's what you're doing right now.
Yeah, and I already did the other side, so you guys don't have to watch me do that. So I think I've got all my choices picked. Oh, champion. Let's pick 64 here. Even though 32 won. That's too bad. So here out in the points, this is just an easy way to quickly look to make sure you picked something. So all of my picks got pulled in over here so it can see everything. So it looks like my score for this is 84, which is okay. So arbitrarily doing it. So so this has all my picks. When you're looking at your score, this is kind of where you'd want to come look at it. But now I want to give this to my bracket manager. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this bracket data for pool tab so you can see my name's populated here now because I typed my name here. There's a nice big yellow name field. Type your name in there. And so all my choices are stuck here. So I'm going to show this way to do it. So I'm going to make another copy of this. So you just can do duplicate. And there's a copy of it. I'm going to select all of this data. So right now, all of this is being pulled in from formulas. So you can kind of see up here, so it's really small. There's the formula bar, and there's formulas in there. And then there's another formula here that's pulling all of that information into this tab. So to select everything that you see, you can kind of a fast way to do that is you click on this box up here between A and 1, and it selects everything. There's hotkeys to do this, but I'm going to just show it visually. So you copy or Control C. And then click back in the same place, and you'll do like a paste special. So values only means it's going to take the values it sees in the cells, get rid of all the formulas behind it, and just paste those values in there. So you want to do that because if you copy and paste this somewhere else, it would copy and paste the formulas, and formulas aren't going to work because it's referencing stuff that doesn't exist. So I've made my copy of it. There's my tab. I'm just going to rename this so it's easy to find. We're just going to call it Juch bracket data for pool hidden and all that. So then what I could do is I own all this, so I can't really share it with myself. But you would share this with whoever your bracket manager is. So you just need to know their email address or their Google account. You can click up here on the share, and then you just type the name in there, click done, and they'll get an email with a link to your bracket, and they'll click on it and open it up. So just a security thing here, when you share your files with somebody explicitly, only they can see it. So like if I shared this with you, Michael, and Heather, you somehow got the link, you wouldn't be able to get into it. It would say, sorry, you don't have access to it because it uses Michael's email address and it knows who Michael is. But then there's another way to share files. You can click up here called Get Shareable Link. And we call this anyone with the link can access it. So as long as if I posted this link out there on social media somewhere or wherever, people could click on it and get to the file. So this is a really good way to share things with a ton of people where you're not so concerned about, the file itself. Much better than saying, okay, I know I want to share this with Michael and Heather and a bunch of other people, have to type all their names in. So just different types of security within Google Docs. And this is true for spreadsheets, docs, slides, anything that's in Google Drive.
Yeah, this is great for collaboration, showing you guys collaboration and sharing docs where you couldn't do this with a spreadsheet. You'd have to send something in a spreadsheet, in an email, and then they'd have to break it out and do all this kind of stuff. Whereas this is the collaboration that Google Sheets is providing, which is the main thing that we wanted to talk about today. You know, your presentation is how you'd have to know what you're doing. I mean, you do have to understand a little bit about Sheets, but
Yeah.
it's the collaboration part that Google Sheets gives you this benefit over using normal spreadsheets.
Yep, exactly. No more emailing files back and forth. No more version control issues. And it's also like we could all be in the spreadsheet at the same time and be making updates to cells and see each other's updates and chat in the spreadsheet and keeps track of everything and make sure it doesn't get broken. So it's a very nice centralized way, and it's very fast too. So you see my updates immediately.
Yep.
I like Zara's comment. She says, I love Google Drive collaboration. Isn't it the best? It is the best.
Yeah, it really is, because it gives you the opportunity and the chance to, you know, what one thing that I also like, and you can maybe show this real quick if you have a second, show them under file. Let's say one thing I do this at work is somebody will mess up a certain version.
Oh, yeah.
And you can go back to a certain revision of before change. There you go, Heather, raise your hand. I love it.
Yeah, so Google recently changed this. Used to call it revision history. Now they call it versioning or version control. It's more, I think people are more used to hearing that term. But so every single change you make, Google keeps track of it and has a version of it somewhere. And so say it's much easier to see in Google Docs, like a document. But say I type something in my document and Michael types something, or he accidentally deletes it and then leaves. And I come up and I open up the document and all the stuff's gone. It's, oh no, what do I do? So you can go into, I'll show file and version history. And you can go to see, there's not going to be much on here, but it'll bring up kind of this version history of things. And you can click over here to click on all of the different versions that you see. So you can see how often I've been updating this. And if you click on it, it'll show you that version. And then if you want to revert your file to it, you just click revert the file, and it'll take you back to that version.
And I like also, if you
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, here's the question that I asked, because this is a real world experience thing here, but let's just say that my boss and I are working on the same spreadsheet. I'm working on tab A and he's working on tab B. And then I realized that so I hit the undo arrow up there and went back, went back, went back, went back. And then I went back, and then I realized, oh, he's also working in the sheet. So did I just go back? Only affect what I was doing?
Should only affect what you're doing.
Should. Okay, good answer. Excellent.
So if you see otherwise, the Google Docs forum is a great place to post about that, and a bunch of TCs. We have wonderful TCs that love Google Docs that will be on it like you wouldn't imagine, to figure out what's going on.
Good news is I still have my job, so we're good. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So one other thing around version control. So Google is, everything with Google, it's machine learning, right? It's very smart as to how it's doing it. So as time goes on, they do something called pruning, where instead of keeping really incremental versions of every change that you're doing, they start combining them. Just by looking at, no one's looking at this, obviously, the machines are deciding how this is working, but the longer this has happened in the past, it's very unlikely that you're going to want to go back to, a file version, something really small that happened, a year ago. And so as things are changing on the sheets, Google's constantly pruning it just to make the file size smaller so they can store more stuff, but also make sure you still have different versions available to you that you're likely going to need. So if sometimes you say, oh, man, I remember 5 years ago when I did something, and you try to go back to find it, you might not find it because Google has pruned that specific version and combined it with other versions. That's called revision pruning.
There you go.
So let's see. So can I go back to the bracket and show you this final step here?
Yeah, Show us.
of enrolling it. So I took that version that I gave all my picks to, and I've shared that over here with myself. So copy of my bracket here. So I'm going to go enroll myself over here in the bracket configuration. I can click on it. So as soon as I enroll myself, I can go over to the points and see that I've been enrolled, and it's yelling at me because it goes, hey, there's no bracket out there named bracket 1. You need to go rename it. So this is my bracket out here. I'm going to rename it bracket 1 and hit enter, and I'm going to go back to points, and it's not going to update because the way this works is, not to get too technical, but just for a second. So when you're referencing things and you're looking for specific names, if you change that thing, Google's not constantly updating these formulas to say, hey, did you change that thing to look at? So all we have to do is kick it back off to say, hey, go look for it again. And so I put this in the help content just so you make sure you do it. So the easiest way is to come out here, unenroll me, re-enroll me, and then go back to points. And so now it found me, put all my choices in, and it scored me, and everything's good to go. So one of the cool features people have been asking about this feature for a while. It's been a difficult thing computationally to figure out how do we actually do this. But one thing you'll see in big bracket kind of things like on ESPN or CBS is this idea of a possible score. So what they're doing is as the tournament progresses and you're making your picks, they're making this calculation to say what's the max possible points you can get. So say you miss a game wrong, well, it's going to take those points away from all the future games that you could possibly get right and decrease that score. And so I got a ton of help from another TC, Adam, and he helped me implement this possible score feature. So now this works on your bracket templates, and when you're looking at your standing, it's going to sort by it'll sort by that max possible score as well. So be easily out here to see, okay, here's all the people, here's who's winning, but could they actually win? Because maybe their max possible score is lower than mine. So I could possibly get past them. So kind of a fun thing if you want to dig through it sometime to look at, okay, how does this actually work? But the formulas are here to go check out. But that's something that'll update as the tournament progresses. Your possible score will change based on your picks, and that is specific to each individual that's enrolled in the bracket. So that's a pretty fun feature.
Fun for us. Some people are just like,
yeah. So at the end of the day, for people that it's like, all you're really concerned about is what's my score, what's the max score I could possibly get, and it's going to tell you what.
Yep. So if you need a spreadsheet built, call Ted. He works consulting on spreadsheets to help you get all this done.
Yeah.
So Zara has a question going back to
Let's do
how
it.
long is that version keeping usually, Ted? Those changes are important for writers. Do you
Yeah.
have any idea how long?
So it goes as soon as you create a new file, it'll start doing that and keeping track of it. So it really depends on how many edits you're making on the document, how many people are in the document. I guess that's pretty much it. So I don't know that, like, Google hasn't told me, hey, that's how it worked, but my experience in seeing how things go as you're working on these files, that's what I see. And I think it makes sense for how Google would manage the versioning.
Yeah, so it's probably not going to batch anything from today
No.
Right.
at the end of the day. It's probably batching from like 3 months ago.
Right, exactly.
Or 3 years ago or something like that. So more than likely, it's not a change that you're going to really go back to, is the point that I heard you say.
Exactly, yeah. So Google's trying to figure that out, and it's not going to be the same for every single file, but they'll base it off of pretty much the activity on the file. So maybe you have like 50 people updating it, and there's lots of updates, you'll probably see pruning start happening sooner than later. But otherwise, it's not that it doesn't happen fairly kind of in the past. But the other thing is you can name specific versions. And so if you want to lock something, you can go out and do that. And I haven't played around with that much yet, but if you go out to the file version history, there's like a name current version. And so I could name this version of the file and say, updated whatever this day, and that'll stay there in my named history.
You know, the other thing that's really cool, we're talking about spreadsheets versus Excel spreadsheets, Google Sheets versus Excel spreadsheets. Excel, I have done a lot of work sometime and forgot to hit save.
Yeah.
Where this saves all the time. After you do stuff,
Yeah.
it saves, which is also crucial when it comes to spreadsheets, when you're doing all these formulas and doing all these different things. That's another benefit to me of why I use Google Sheets over Excel. More and more I'm using Sheets more than I am Excel. And I'm a big time Excel guy too. As Andrew put out there, I have an ultimate formula for any sheet. It's, hey, Michael.
Nice. Yeah, there's no save button either.
Right.
So you can't even try to save it. But there is, so it tells you, hey, here's what it's doing. All changes are saved in Drive and some information. So if you're concerned about it, that's where it is. So to take it a little bit further too, there's a concern about offline. So what if you're online, you're doing things and you're saving and suddenly you lose internet connection or something happens? So if you're in Chrome and you have offline enabled, it's going to continue to allow you working, and it's going to save your edits and things within kind of within the browser. And then as soon as you have that connection back, it's going to sync back up and
That's nice.
like nothing happened. If you don't have that turned on, it's going to realize immediately, hey, you've lost your connection, and it's going to turn your file view only so you don't accidentally update something and lose.
That's real nice.
Something. Then there's also when you're collaborating with other people, what happens when you go offline? And there's a lot going on with this right now. What is the right thing to do in this situation? And so I would really avoid editing files offline that you have shared with somebody else at this point. If like you're collaborating on something and you're concerned about people working on it while you're offline, the best thing right now is just don't do it. It's pretty edge case type of thing, but something that people are asking about. You know, they want to be able to collaborate on something and come back online where other people have edited that file and it not mess everything up, and that their edits go into the right places and things like that.
Yeah.
But pretty hard problem, but very interesting.
Absolutely.
So now, Ted, I did hear you mention that you did get some help on a certain part of this this sheet, and that don't even ask me where it was. I know you said, but this I'm the one with the mind blown. But I did want to know, really big question. I'm pretty sure everybody else out there wants to know, how long did it take you to create this thing?
So the original template was something that Google built in like 2012, long time ago, and they had their own thing that did all of this. And so the base bracket itself, they built the visual, what you see. The rest of it kind of has been there's been different versions of it that's gotten better. Yeah. So we're in probably version, I don't know, 20 at this point. But over the past, 8 to 8 years, it's just been constantly being developed. So I usually spend, about a month before March making sure everything is in place. And if there's new features I want to get in place, make sure they're in place. And if there's something that I'm going to have an issue with, but then I kind of have a hard deadline and say, at this point I'm done. If there's anything else, I have a next year's version. And the really hard part about building these things and what takes time is figuring out what people really want. I do this for fun. I think it's a cool thing for Google Sheets, but I'm on the Google Docs help forum just to help people build things. And so this was one of the huge things. People were so upset when Google stopped supporting this. And I was like, well, I like doing this too. I'll just rebuild it and see how we could do it. So there's been a lot of people that have helped with that and saying, I want this type of feature, and getting that in there, and how hard is that going to be, and some rebuilds. And there's a lot of things in here that I'd still like to do that I haven't had, time to do it yet. But I'd say it's been a project for the past 7, 8 years. I'm not working on it every day, but I don't know if that answers the question, but it's a long time. It's a long time coming.
All right, we got to move along time-wise. I'm going to, you can quit screen sharing there if you like, and then I will go back over to, we're going to get into the next segment. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do Tech in the News. That's where we're going to go next. So here we go. All right. Tech in the News. So what we got, this is so cool, and you guys can respond to this too if you want to. But these are some things that I noticed this week. It's kind of crazy. Google's Slack competitor. Okay, Slack competitor. I love that. Hangouts Chat launches today for G Suite. So they actually launched Hangouts Chat for G Suite users only. Anybody that has G Suite can tell us what that's all about and what that's like. Very interesting. Also, first wave of Google I/O invites has been sent out. Anybody that doesn't know, Google I/O is where they usually break out with some new stuff. That's where Lens came in, Photos came in, all that kind of stuff. They make a big announcements whenever stuff like that comes out new and stuff. So the I/O, they're taking invites for people that want to do that. Anybody that's a programmer and all that kind of stuff. Always like to mention those kind of things. This is kind of cool. I know Heather and I use Trello like tonight, and our thing tonight, what we use, it says introducing Trello for Google Hangouts Chat, bringing chat and project management together. How about that? They're trying to combine the two. I thought that was kind of cool. Didn't know that was even a possibility, and I'm not sure if that's suites only, because a lot of times that's what they do whenever they bring something out. And then Google, this is kind of cool. Google launches mobile real-time video segmentation as limited beta. They're doing an AI green screen to you and I. Wow. So green screen on mobile live video. That's interesting.
I can't even imagine what that's going to look like or how that's going to be used.
I totally agree with you. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. So, and like I said,
just stand in front of a tree when you're at the park.
There you go.
And you can use the tree as your green screen. Of course, it's going to be like this, but whatever.
And the last one I have for tonight is Google Lens is coming to all Android phones running Google Photos. So Google Lens that us with Pixels have right now, or Pickles.
Or Pickle.
But it's going to any Android phone that has Google Photos. So very interesting. Last but not least, let's take a sneak peek at next week. Let me go jump into that. So here we go. All right, next week I have top contributor. I've had her on before, Mrs. Drasby, which is Barbara Drasby, and she's going to go over Google Drawing. She's going to go tell us. She's a Google education person that last time she was on, and she showed us some really cool stuff with Google Educations, and we could learn a little bit about that. And then she's going to be on and talk about Google Drawings next week. So that will be a fun and interesting thing. Ted, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really do appreciate you taking time out and doing this with us. It's very complex, but you know what? I picked up a couple things too, and some stuff I know, and some things are great reminders for some of these people, especially the added features and things like that. We really do appreciate you coming on, though. We do.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
And for our members of our community, we have a paid-for community. Okay, it's $10 a month. Anybody who wants to come in the community afterward, come into the. Heather will put the link inside the community for this Zoom meeting. You can come in the Zoom and come in and chat with us. Come in and talk to Ted for a little while. I told him about it, and he's agreed, and he's stick around for a little bit, answer any questions, or doesn't have to be necessarily what was covered today, but anything spreadsheets or anything like that. Feel free to come in and chat with us. We appreciate everybody that came. I mean, that was just awesome seeing everybody out there in the audience. And, you know, I know some of it was over your head. I get it. And some people are so afraid of spreadsheets. But it's kind of nice to know that you have TCs too. I mean, look at Heather over there. I know that some TCs.
I didn't know some of that stuff was capable. That was pretty amazing to see that you can link within and that you bring in whatever. We'll talk about it after, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about it in the after party, as we say. So thank you, everyone. We really do appreciate everyone coming out. If you want to join the community, that's in the description of this event too. You can learn how to join. You can join tonight if you want to, but come on in. Come in and talk to us, chat with us, and learn a little bit more. And hopefully, Ted, stick around and answer any of y'all's questions that you might have. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Remember, next week, and we'll see you then. Good night, everybody.